Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. Today, we are going to be looking at,
Deep diving
that's right, deep diving
into
to mobile banking and women's empowerment in Bangladesh.
That's right.
And this is interesting because the source material
Yes.
that we're using today is a set of IELTS Speaking Test questions,
Yeah.
which seems a little unusual.
It is.
But actually, they lead to some pretty interesting insights
Yeah.
about the intersection of technology and finance
Yes.
and social change.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
where do we even begin? Let's kind of set the stage here.
Sure.
What are we looking to accomplish in this deep dive?
Well, I think what we're trying to do is we're going to unpack how mobile banking works in Bangladesh
Okay.
and look at the challenges and opportunities that it presents specifically for women.
Okay.
And then we'll look at the impact it has on their lives and
Yeah.
their communities.
So like just to start off really basic,
Yeah.
just so everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
What exactly is mobile banking?
Well, I think most people have at least heard of it, but maybe haven't used it.
Right.
Basically, it's using your phone to manage your money.
Oh.
You can pay bills, transfer money.
Uh-huh.
You can even take out small loans.
Wow.
It's like having a bank in your pocket.
Right.
Which is really important in places where...
Or you don't have banks.
Exactly, where there's limited access to traditional banking.
Okay.
And that really is Bangladesh in a nutshell.
Okay,
Yeah.
so give us that picture then.
Bangladesh is a really interesting country for this because it has a really large population.
Right.
But a relatively low rate of traditional banking.
Meaning people don't have bank accounts.
Exactly. So it's just ripe for mobile banking.
Got it.
It's a perfect place for it to take off.
Now, is this something that's popular mostly with younger people?
Wow.
Or how does that break down?
You know, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the IELTS questions really focus on women, which I think tells us something.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It suggests that mobile banking plays a particularly significant role in women's lives in Bangladesh.
And this is a country where women have not always had financial freedom.
Exactly.
So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So what are some examples? Like, how are these women actually using mobile banking in their daily lives?
Well, a good example would be receiving remittances from family members working abroad.
Okay.
Because a lot of people leave Bangladesh to work and then they're sending money back to their families.
Makes sense.
Another one would be just paying for everyday things.
Okay.
Like groceries, utilities, things like that.
So just kind of normal stuff.
Day-to-day.
We would use a card for.
Exactly.
But they're using
their phone.
their phones.
Yeah.
Wow.
But one that I think is really interesting is saving money.
Okay.
You know, if you don't have a bank account, it can be really hard to save money safely.
Yeah.
But with mobile banking, women can have a secure place to keep their earnings.
So it's almost like a digital piggy bank.
Exactly.
Right.
And then even beyond that,
Yeah.
they can get microloans
Okay.
to start or expand small businesses.
So you don't even need a traditional bank
No.
to get a loan.
It's really incredible.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
It was like you said at the beginning.
Yes.
It really is a game changer for these women.
Yeah.
But obviously, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Well, that's right.
The IELTS questions also asked about challenges.
They do.
Yeah. And that's an important part of this conversation.
So what are those? What are some of the hurdles that these women are still facing?
Well, one of the biggest ones is digital literacy.
Okay.
You know, not everyone knows how to use a smartphone.
Right.
Or navigate banking apps.
Especially an older generation.
Exactly.
Who didn't grow up with all this stuff.
Yeah. So that's definitely a barrier.
And I imagine internet access, yes, that's another big one.
Is spotty at best.
Especially in more rural areas.
Yeah.
It can be really difficult to even get a signal.
And even if they have internet and they have a phone.
Yeah.
I imagine there are certain, like, societal norms that might hold them back.
That's right. You know, in some communities, women having financial independence, it's still frowned upon.
It's still kind of a radical idea.
It is, yeah.
And even if you put all that aside, there are always safety concerns.
Absolutely. Anytime you're dealing with money.
Right.
Especially online.
Yeah.
Safety is a huge concern.
So it sounds like there's a lot of work to do still.
There is, yeah.
But there are people working on it.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about that.
So what's really interesting is that the IELTS questions also touch on the role of the government and the private sector.
So it's a team effort.
It is.
To try to...
It really is a collaboration.
Overcome these obstacles.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are they doing, like, specifically? Well, the government's been doing a lot to improve digital literacy.
Okay.
Especially for women.
So like what? Like classes and stuff?
Yeah, exactly. They're offering training courses in community centers and
Yeah.
things like that.
That's cool.
And then mobile network providers are also getting involved.
Makes sense.
They're creating apps that are really user-friendly,
Okay.
and they're even translating them into local languages.
So it's not just about handing someone a smartphone
No.
and being like, good luck.
Exactly. They're really trying to create a whole support system.
I mean, that just makes sense,
Yeah.
right? Like you have to meet people where they're at.
Yeah.
And if they've never touched a smartphone before,
Right.
you can't just expect them to
figure it out.
to be an expert overnight.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. And, another thing they're focusing on is security,
Okay.
which we were talking about.
Yeah.
That's a big concern.
So they're working together to try to combat fraud and protect people's data.
Okay, that's good. So obviously this is all very impressive.
Yes.
Right? Like the fact that they're creating this whole infrastructure to help women.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's working.
so tell me about that. What kind of real world impact is this having on these women?
Okay, so there was a World Bank study,
Mm-hmm.
and they found that mobile banking led to an 18% increase in women's household savings.
Wow, it's huge.
It is. And that's money that they can then use for all sorts of things,
Like,
like education, healthcare, investing in their futures.
so it's not just about
No.
having extra cash.
Yeah.
It's about having control.
Exactly. It's about having options.
And that's powerful.
It is.
Wow.
And there's so many anecdotal stories, too.
Yeah.
Women who were completely dependent on their husbands. Now they're running successful businesses.
That's incredible.
It's really amazing to see.
Wow. So we've talked about the positive impact, the challenges what the government's doing.
Right.
But the IELTS questions also ask about
Yes.
comparisons with other countries.
Yeah.
And what the future holds.
That's right.
So is Bangladesh a model for the rest of the world?
It's hard to say, but they are definitely a leader in this area.
Right.
They've shown what's possible when you use technology to empower women.
Yeah.
So other countries are paying attention, and they're learning from both the successes and the challenges.
So this idea of mobile banking,
Yeah.
do you think it could completely replace traditional banking for these women?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
I think traditional banks will still have a role to play, especially for larger loans or more complex financial needs.
Right.
But I think a hybrid system is probably the most likely outcome.
Where both exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where they can complement each other.
Got it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been quite the deep dive.
It has.
Starting from IELTS test questions
Right.
and ending up with
Yeah.
all of this amazing work
Yes.
that's happening
It's really inspiring.
to help women
Yeah.
in Bangladesh.
Absolutely.
So to kind of sum it all up,
Yeah.
mobile banking is providing financial independence,
Mm-hmm.
opportunities for entrepreneurship,
Yes.
and really giving these women a greater voice in their communities.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
I guess to leave our listeners with one final thought,
Yes. Well,
what could they take away from this?
I think what's really interesting is that
Yeah.
the success of mobile banking in Bangladesh really highlights the potential for technology to address social and economic inequalities globally.
Wow.
So what other innovative solutions are out there
Right.
just waiting to be discovered?
That's a great question.
It's an exciting time to be alive.
I think so too. Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next time
See you then.
on the deep dive.
Bye.
Bye.